My sister's jealousy over a family heirloom didn't just cost her our relationship. It cost her everything she held dear, and she made sure to try and take me down with her in a blaze of lies and public humiliation so vicious, I still sometimes wake up feeling the ghost of their stares. I always knew there was a subtle, unspoken rivalry simmering between me and my sister Anna, who is 3 years older. It was never overt, not the kind of fight that ends with scratched faces and pulled hair, but a slow, cold war waged with little comments about my career, my choices, or how our mother seemed to favor me. I was the quiet, bookish one, and she was the social butterfly, and I always felt I was a disappointment in her shadow. I dismissed it as typical sibling friction, the natural order of things. Our father, a kind and gentle man, passed away from a sudden heart attack when we were teenagers, and his absence left a void in our family that we all coped with in our own fractured ways. Mom clung to us with a quiet desperation. Anna sought validation in her ever-expanding social circles and the allure of material wealth, and I, perhaps in a bid for stability, buried myself in the logical, predictable world of software development. The epicenter of our current war, the fault line that would eventually trigger the earthquake, was our grandmother's antique sapphire necklace. It wasn't primarily about its monetary value, though it had been appraised for a substantial amount, well over $80,000. It was about sentiment, about memory, about a legacy of love. Our grandmother and I shared a profound, quiet bond that Anna never understood. She was a lot like me. Introverted, thoughtful, with a deep love for history and family stories. She taught me how to garden, how to tell when the tomatoes were perfectly ripe, how to bake her famous apple pie with a crust so flaky it seemed to dissolve on the tongue. She was my confidant when I felt like the quiet, awkward younger sister who couldn't compete with Anna's vivaciousness and social ease. On her deathbed, in a room smelling of antiseptic and fading roses, Grandma took my hand, her skin paper-thin, and whispered, "The necklace is for you, my dear. You understand its true worth." She didn't mean its price tag. She meant its history, its connection to our family's roots, the stories each delicate sapphire and diamond setting held from a time long past. She passed away peacefully, and her will, clear and unambiguous, explicitly stated that the heirloom necklace was to be given to me and me alone. Anna was livid. She had always openly coveted the necklace, seeing it not as a repository of family history but as a symbol of elegance, status, and a certain old-world glamour she desperately wanted to project. The day after the will was read, she stormed into our mother's kitchen, her eyes blazing with a sense of betrayal so profound it seemed to shake the very walls. She argued, she cried, she claimed Grandma must have been confused in her final days, that as the eldest granddaughter, it was her birthright, her due. Mom, forever the peacemaker, her own heart heavy with grief, tried to placate her. She suggested we could perhaps share it, take turns, or that I should consider letting Anna have it, since I wasn't one for fancy jewelry and preferred my simple, understated style. But for the first time in my life I stood my ground. This wasn't a piece of property. It was my last tangible connection to my grandmother, a silent promise, a final gift of understanding. I wouldn't let it go. I took the necklace, had it professionally cleaned and insured, and kept it not in my jewelry box, but in a safety deposit box at my bank, only wearing it on very special, solemn occasions. Anna never forgave me for that. The coldness between us, once a chill, solidified into a permanent, impenetrable frost. Our interactions became a minefield of passive-aggressive comments and carefully veiled insults, all revolving around that single glittering object. Life as it does moved on around our frozen war. Anna married Derek, a genuinely kind and successful architect whose family, while not obscenely wealthy, was very comfortable with old money and a respected name in the community. Derek truly adored Anna, or at least the version of her he saw, and he provided her with a life of luxury she had always craved. A beautiful, sprawling house in the best part of town, expensive trips to Europe and the Caribbean, a generous monthly allowance that seemed to have no limits. She became a prominent socialite, her life a curated whirlwind of charity galas, ladies' lunches and gallery openings. Her identity became inextricably linked to her husband's wealth and status. I continued on my quieter, more deliberate path, advancing in my career, living within my means, and eventually, after years of discipline, saving enough for a substantial down payment on a cozy, sunlit apartment in a renovated downtown building. I was content building a life on a foundation of my own making. The first major crack in Anna's perfect gilded life appeared about a year ago. Derek's architecture firm, heavily invested in a few large-scale commercial developments, hit an unexpected and severe rough patch. A major project fell through due to a client's bankruptcy, and another was stalled by legal battles. It wasn't catastrophic. Derek was a savvy businessman, but it meant a serious, immediate tightening of the belt. The lavish, almost reckless spending had to slow down, and dramatically. Anna's allowance was halved, then halved again. The constant, reassuring stream of new designer bags, spontaneous weekend trips to Paris, and extravagant home renovations dried up almost overnight. She was miserable, and she made sure everyone in her orbit knew it. At family dinners, which had become increasingly strained, she'd make snide, pointed remarks about how some people are lucky to have stable, boring, government-backed jobs, while her husband's business was so volatile and stressful, her eyes flicking towards me with barely concealed resentment. Then the real crisis hit. About 6 months ago, our mother was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. The prognosis was uncertain, a terrifying roller coaster of hope and despair. The recommended treatment was a course of specialized, experimental chemotherapy and radiation that wasn't fully covered by our country's healthcare system. The medical bills began to pile up with a terrifying speed, a relentless torrent of invoices for consultations, scans, and drugs that cost more than a car. Mom had some savings, a nest egg she had carefully built over a lifetime of work, but it was quickly becoming clear it wouldn't be enough to see her through the entire treatment, which her doctor said was her best chance. We were devastated, united for a brief moment by sheer, primal fear. One evening, Anna and I sat in Mom's familiar floral print living room, the air thick with the scent of her illness and our shared anxiety, discussing what to do. It was the first civil-focused conversation we'd had in years. "We have to sell the house," Anna said, her voice trembling with a performative grief that at the time I mistook for genuine despair. "It's the only asset of real value. It's that simple." "That's her home, Anna," I argued, my own heart breaking at the thought. "She's lived here for 40 years. Every memory of Dad is in these walls. The stress of packing, moving, leaving this place, it could make her worse. There has to be another way. We could take out loans, I can contribute more from my savings." Anna's eyes, red-rimmed and glistening with manufactured tears, then locked onto mine with a sudden, chilling intensity. She had been waiting for this. "The necklace," she said, the words dropping into the room like stones. I froze, a cold dread seeping into my veins. "What about it?" "Grandma's necklace. The appraisal was $85,000. We could sell it and it would cover the entire treatment, maybe even more. It's the right thing to do. The only thing to do." She leaned forward, her expression one of pious sacrifice. "It's just a thing, Sarah. Mom's life is more important than a thing." The air left my lungs. She had maneuvered the conversation with the skill of a master chess player, backing me into a perfect corner where saying no would make me seem selfish, cruel, and monstrous. But something in her tone, a flicker of cold, calculated triumph behind the feigned concern, set off every alarm bell in my head. This didn't feel like a desperate suggestion. It felt like a long-awaited ambush. Anna, you know what that necklace means to me. And to Mom. It was Grandma's final wish. She wanted me to have it. Grandma would want her only daughter to live, she shot back, her voice rising to a dramatic pitch. This isn't about you and your sentimental attachment. This is about saving our mother's life. Are you really going to prioritize a piece of jewelry over Mom? Are you that heartless? I felt physically sick. The guilt was immediate and crushing, a weight on my chest. Was I being selfish? Was my attachment to a material object, no matter how sentimentally valuable, blinding me to my mother's very real, very urgent needs? The moral high ground she had seized felt unassailable. I told her I needed to think about it, to sleep on it. I went home that night and didn't sleep a wink. I lay in the dark, holding my grandmother's memory close, feeling like I was betraying her by even considering selling her last gift. The image of my mother's frail, hopeful face warred with the memory of my grandmother's firm, loving voice. You understand its worth. The next day, heavy with a resolve that felt like a death sentence, I went to the bank. I would do it. I would sell the necklace. My grandmother would understand. Family comes first. As I was filling out the forms to access the safety deposit box, my hand trembling slightly, my phone buzzed in my purse. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize. My heart leapt, thinking it was the hospital. I opened it. It was a photo followed by a short, devastating text. The photo was of Anna, taken just the day before. She wasn't at a hospital or a lawyer's office. She was standing on a sun-drenched veranda, laughing, a glass of champagne in her hand, with a slick-looking real estate agent pointing towards a stunning modern beachfront property. The text below read, "Your sister put a holding deposit on this last week. Asking price, $1.2 million. She's telling everyone she's come into an inheritance. Thought you should know the truth. A friend." My blood ran cold. I felt the world tilt on its axis, the bank lobby swirling around me. The medical bills. The desperate, tearful plea. The performance in the living room. It was all a lie. A sophisticated, manipulative, and utterly cruel lie. Anna wasn't trying to save Mom. She was trying to fund a new, even more luxurious lifestyle for herself, using our mother's life-threatening illness as a weapon to guilt me into giving her the one thing she had always wanted, so she could liquidate it for cash to use as a down payment on her dream vacation home. The rage that replaced the shock was pure and white-hot. I confronted her that same evening at her home. Derek thankfully wasn't there. I didn't ring the bell. I walked straight in, the photo held up on my phone like a shield. I showed it to her. Her face, for a split second, was a mask of pure, unadulterated shock before it contorted into defensive, sputtering rage. "You're having me followed? You're pathetic. You're insane," she screamed, her voice echoing through the marble foyer. "Who sent this, Anna? It doesn't matter. Is it true? Are you trying to scam me out of Grandma's necklace to buy a fucking vacation home while our mother is fighting for her life?" "Mom's treatment is real," she deflected, her voice shrill and desperate. "The bills are real. But why should we all live in poverty because of it? This is an investment. A smart financial move. We can help Mom and secure our future. You're too short-sighted to see that. By stealing from me? By lying? By using Mom's cancer as your personal piggy bank." I was shaking with a fury I had never known I possessed. "You are unbelievable. The answer is no. A final, absolute no. I will find another way to help Mom. I will take out a second mortgage on my apartment. I will work 3 jobs before I let you get your hands on that necklace." Her composure shattered completely. The carefully constructed facade of the concerned daughter and sister vaporized, revealing the raw, envious core that had been festering for years. "You've always thought you were better than me," she shrieked, advancing on me. Grandma's favorite, Mom's little angel. You with your perfect, responsible, boring little life. That necklace should have been mine. It was always meant to be mine. You stole it from me. I left her house while she was still screaming obscenities, the sound following me out into the cool evening air like a curse. I went straight to my mother. I sat by her bedside, held her hand and showed her the photo. I explained everything, my voice breaking with the effort of containing my anger and heartbreak. Mom was devastated not just by Anna's deception, but by the depth of her avarice and cruelty. We cried together for the family we were losing, for the trust that was broken. I promised her I would handle her medical bills. I would use my own savings, the money I had painstakingly saved for my apartment. It was a devastating financial blow, a dream postponed indefinitely, but my mother's well-being and the preservation of the truth were infinitely more important. What I didn't anticipate, what I could never have prepared for, was the nuclear fallout that Anna would unleash. Exposed, cornered, and denied her prize, she decided that if she couldn't have the necklace, she would destroy me completely. She went to Derek first, but she spun a masterful alternate tale of breathtaking audacity. She told him that I was the villain, that I was trying to pressure our sick, vulnerable mother into changing her will, that I had essentially stolen the necklace years ago by manipulating Grandma on her deathbed, and that I was now trying to sell off other family assets for my own gain. She presented herself as the heroic, dutiful daughter, single-handedly trying to protect her mother from her greedy, conniving younger sister. Derek, who had only ever seen Anna's carefully curated, charming persona, who had been insulated from the Cold War between us, believed her. He was horrified by me. Then Anna took her campaign public. She started a vicious whisper campaign among our extended family and all our mutual friends. She painted me as a monster, a vulture capitalizing on our mother's vulnerability. I started getting calls from aunts and uncles, their voices laced with cold disappointment and stern judgment. "Family sticks together in times like these, Sarah," one uncle said. "How could you do this to your mother?" I tried to explain, to show them the photo, to lay out the facts, but Anna had been quicker. Her story was more emotionally compelling. A classic tale of a greedy sibling, and people, I learned, prefer a simple, salacious story over a complex, messy truth. The final, crushing straw came at a family birthday party for our uncle. I decided to go, to hold my head high and show them I wasn't the monster Anna had made me out to be. It was a terrible mistake. Anna and Derek were there, the very picture of wounded, marital solidarity. I avoided them, staying close to my mother's side, a silent sentinel. But Anna, emboldened by her perceived victory and the sympathetic glances from our relatives, couldn't resist a public confrontation. She cornered me near the buffet table, the scent of roasted meat and her expensive perfume suddenly suffocating. "Still playing the innocent victim?" she sneered, her voice a venomous whisper meant only for me. "Enjoying your little game? You've turned everyone against me." "You did that to yourself, Anna," I said, my voice low and steady, though my knees felt weak. "All you had to do was be honest." Her eyes flashed with a pure, unadulterated hatred that made me take a step back. "Honest? You want honesty?" she hissed, leaning in. "I hate you. I have always hated you. You don't deserve that necklace, you don't deserve Mom's love, and you don't deserve to be happy. You are a pathetic, lonely shadow." Then, in front of our entire assembled family, she switched in an instant. She raised her voice to a dramatic, tearful wail that cut through the party chatter like a knife. "Please, Sarah, just give it back. I'm begging you. For Mom's sake. How can you be so cruel? How can you stand there while she's dying?" The room fell into a stunned, deafening silence. All eyes were on us, wide with shock and morbid curiosity. Derek rushed to her side, putting a protective arm around her, glaring at me with a look of such profound contempt it felt like a physical blow. "That's enough, Sarah," he said, his voice cold and final, a judge delivering a sentence. "Haven't you put this family through enough? Just leave her alone." I looked past him at the faces of my family, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I saw their doubt, their suspicion, their pity for Anna. They saw a hysterical, wronged sister and a calm, cold, and therefore guilty me. In that moment, standing in the center of that ring of accusing eyes, I knew I had lost them. The truth didn't matter. The evidence didn't matter. Anna's performance was too perfect, too emotionally resonant. I didn't say a word in my defense. There was no point. I just turned, my face a mask of stone, picked up my purse and walked out. I got in my car and drove, tears of rage, helplessness, and a profound sense of injustice streaming down my face, blurring the streetlights into starbursts. The harassment didn't stop there. A few days later, I received a formal complaining letter from my homeowners association about excessive noise from my apartment at all hours, a complete fabrication. A fake, scathingly negative review was posted on my company's public website, specifically naming me as unprofessional, unethical, and untrustworthy. Anna was waging a total war, aiming to destroy my reputation, my peace, and my livelihood. I knew I had to fight back, but not with words she could twist. I needed cold, hard, irrefutable proof that would silence her forever. I hired a private investigator. It was expensive, depleting even more of my precious savings, but it was a necessary investment in my survival. Within 2 weeks, he delivered a fat envelope of truth. He had dug deep into Anna's finances, following the digital paper trail she had been so sure was hidden. He obtained documents and bank statements clearly showing the transfer of the substantial holding deposit for the beach house from an account she controlled, an account Derek apparently knew nothing about. More importantly and more damningly, he discovered she had been systematically siphoning money from Derek's struggling business for months, creating fake vendor invoices and funneling tens of thousands of dollars into her separate account. Her financial deception and betrayal were far more extensive and sinister than I had ever imagined. I didn't confront her. I went directly to the source of her support, Derek. I asked to meet him at a neutral, quiet coffee shop downtown. He was reluctant, his demeanor hostile, and closed off from the moment he sat down. "I don't know what you hope to achieve, Sarah," he began, but I cut him off. "I know you don't believe me," I said quietly, my voice firm despite the pounding of my heart. "And I know you think you're protecting your wife. But before you dismiss me entirely, and for the sake of the business you've worked your whole life to build, please just look at this." I slid the folder of documents across the table to him. I watched, silent, as he read through the pages. I saw the color drain from his face, his hands begin to shake slightly, his jaw clench. He saw the real estate documents with Anna's signature, the bank transfers from her secret account, the most damning evidence, the clear, undeniable proof of embezzlement from his own company, the very company that was already on shaky ground. The carefully constructed illusion of his wife, the woman he loved, shattered into a million pieces right there in front of him, in the cheerful, aromatic ambience of a coffee shop. He didn't say anything for a very long time. When he finally looked up, his eyes were filled with a profound, gut-wrenching sadness and a dawning horror. I had no idea," he whispered, the words choked. "By God. The business, the missing funds. I thought it was just the market. I know," I replied softly, feeling a pang of unexpected pity for him. She fooled everyone. The aftermath was swift, brutal, and publicly humiliating for Anna. Derek confronted her with the evidence that evening. The ensuing fight, I was later told by a neighbor, was apocalyptic, audible through the walls. He filed for divorce the next morning, citing fraud and irreconcilable differences, and he pressed charges for embezzlement with the police. The beach house dream evaporated instantly. Their shared social circle, the one that had adored the perfect couple, now shunned her, the news spreading through their world like wildfire. The full, ugly truth about the necklace and her manipulation of our mother's illness came out, and the tide of public opinion turned violently and decisively against her. My family, shamefaced and mortified, offered their awkward, stammering apologies, which I accepted with a distant, polite numbness. The words, "I'm sorry," couldn't rebuild the trust that had been so thoroughly annihilated. Anna's life collapsed completely. Facing a devastating divorce and serious criminal charges, she was left with nothing. No husband, no home, no money, and no reputation. My mother, though her heart was broken anew by the actions of her eldest daughter, finally saw the unvarnished, ugly truth. Our relationship is healing, slowly and tenderly, like a fragile plant after a frost. I had to postpone my apartment purchase, watching the dream recede, but the peace of mind and the reclamation of my name were worth every penny. The last I heard through the convoluted family grapevine, Anna had moved to another state, her reputation in ruins, her marriage over, and a possible prison sentence hanging over her head. I still have my grandmother's necklace. I take it out of the safety deposit box sometimes, not with sadness, but with a sense of grim vindication and a renewed understanding of my grandmother's wisdom. It was never just a piece of jewelry. It was a test of character, a touchstone for truth. My sister failed that test spectacularly, and in her desperate, avaricious attempt to take what was mine, she systematically lost everything that was ever truly hers.